Time now for this week's Health Matters. Paul Critz with you, along with PA Lynn Szabo. And did we do something like this in the past? Like back during Black Lives Matter? Didn't we do something like this?
We might have, but that's the first time that I have this awareness of it.
Okay.
So more in depth.
It's a really, really timely subject, today's Health Matters. We are recording this the day after widespread protests, or some protests, I don't even know how widespread they are yet, broke out in Los Angeles over what's happening with ICE raids in the community. And so this is what would you characterize today's show, like a how-to, a guide?
Yeah, well, this started from a viewpoint of a medical person. Okay. So these protests are happening, in my view, spontaneously, and I think they're actually pretty widespread. Although I don't think anybody's in danger, and I think a lot of them are peaceful, but of course it's being blown up by the felon,
right?
I call him that.
Yeah.
And he's sending National Guard troops and maybe the Marines, but
And this seemed like last week, I think it was, there was a raid in a neighborhood in San Diego, and that didn't go quite according to plan. For the first time, it seemed like people stood up and went, "Hey, no!" And I believe ICE had to withdraw from that neighborhood as well. Right. And so that may have set the stage for these wider protests. So
a lot of the providers that I work with are appalled by many aspects of the current national government. And oftentimes we ask ourselves, are we doing everything we can? What can we do? And we're in an odd position because in some ways, in a very narrow focus, we can do a lot, but mostly our job is, to keep seeing patients, I think, to keep meeting the needs of the regular medical patients. But so I was wondering what I would do in this situation, and I did a little bit of research, and actually there is something called an action medic. It's a thing. It was action medic or street medics. It's a thing, and I kind of jumped into that. So, but we should note here, planning for trouble is not the same thing as causing trouble. Okay.
Right. Well, even before we get into this, we should just kind of characterize what this is about. This is a how-to. If you're going to get out in the streets. This
is a little bit kind of an instruction manual about how to keep yourself safe, and then also kind of introducing these street medics whose job it is to make sure that people stay safe, and if they're injured or if there's something going on, that they intervene.
Okay.
And most of these people start out with some limited medical training.
Right.
And then some training, maybe if the protest is kind of planned. So the group that plans the protest has some like passive resistance training or something like that, peaceful non-cooperation.
Okay, and you were talking then about the difference between planning for trouble and causing trouble.
Right. So this is not causing trouble. It's not meant to step into it in a violent way. It's meant to be aware of what the situation might require from somebody with medical training and medical intent. Okay? So planning helps people stay calm and focused, hypothetically.
Yeah, right.
But, providers are used to, especially ER providers or urgent care providers or even community clinic providers. We get people angry all the time, and we get confrontations all the time that we're called to either mediate or witness. Okay?
Are you trained at all in de-escalation?
I'm not, but that's because I haven't really sought it out. But there are many clinic situations where we're called to do what's called a doctor strong, which means just all of a sudden in mass go to the center of a conflict and be like passive observers.
Wow.
And that de-escalates stuff pretty rapidly. I was just involved in one this week, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. We're just having eyes on it kind of changed it?
Right. Right. So, and also medical people are trained to watch for signs that things are developing. And, people call us, kind of negative, but we're taught to think about problems and anticipate them and block them. And then the important thing too, and we're really good at it, is documenting. So at least eventually, documenting is going to be important. So if somebody's interested in doing this, there's a couple of caveats, and there's actually protocols that are developed. And I thought reaching out to anybody who might find themselves involved in something like this, either kind of spontaneously or planning to go to something as in action medic. So they're planning that role. What do you do to make that happen in a safe way? So first of all, don't go alone. So be part of a group so you can have people around you who are mutually supportive. And the aim, of course, is peaceful. It's not, trying to cause a problem.
Sure.
It's trying to be there to solve a problem.
It's probably in any sort of protest sort of situation. Don't go alone. Is a good thing. I mean, something, you're arrested, something happens to you, you got to have somebody there who at least is going to know.
Some of the videos we're seeing out of Los Angeles, there were people who were obviously not planning to be involved in a conflict. There's this guy in flip-flops carrying his dog.
Oh my God.
So he was just out walking his dog. But be with somebody who's going to be supportive of you.
I'm sorry. So it's like maybe kind of a foundational rule is no flip flops.
I'll get to that. That's part. These rules rules actually come from Amnesty International. And yes, there's a no flip flop rule. There's also a stay hydrated rule and a focus on snacks, not only to keep oneself oneself kind of nourished, but also to decrease the level of hangry, I suppose.
That's good, yeah.
Yeah, and be like a Cub Scout mom and keep everybody. Snacks for energy is what they recommend.
Okay.
And then have enough money because, need for money to get this or that is going to come up. So you don't have to carry lots of money just for essentials.
There are, I believe, even newer sorts of concerns that might not have made this list. Maybe you have them down here someplace else, but I've seen changing sort of attitudes even about having your phone on you.
Right.
Because the phone can be used
and they do
against
suggest a burner phone.
A burner phone. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Or they suggest
or a video camera or something instead of. Yeah.
Because they don't want your phone to be confiscated and used against you, actually.
Exactly.
But remember, the role here is helper, not instigator. So.
Yeah, but that rule, when you've got a line of jackbooted thugs coming down the road and they're running over anybody gets in their way and hauling them off to God knows where, that doesn't always apply. Even the guy in the flip-flops with his dog can get caught up. And
absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. And nobody's going to respect that role. The thugs have medical attention available to them.
Right.
Why shouldn't the guy walking his dog, who all of a sudden is in tear gas, shouldn't have medical attention available? Anyway, you should bring a first aid kit. That seems a little obvious, but it should include kind of an anticipatory number of things in case somebody gets arrested. This I wouldn't have thought about. So your own personal first aid kit should have important prescriptions that you might be on, and then also should have a section for the people you're taking care of. And those medications include like EpiPen or rescue inhalers. Those are both prescription. And then also acetaminophen, ibuprofen, over-the-counter antihistamines, and menstrual products actually was recommended that people have access to.
Now you say in case you're arrested?
Yeah.
Do you anticipate people being arrested, being allowed to keep these things?
I think in the heat of the moment, there's not going to be rational decisions made, and not having ever been arrested.
Yeah,
again, better to be prepared, I guess. And have wipes and tissues and stuff like that, going back to the Cub Scout mom.
What's a good, you said, it says here have a basic first aid kit. What's a basic first aid kit contain?
So basic, what I would think of is Band-Aids, like a triangular sling, safety pins, a cleaning solution to clean wounds, either betadine or Hibiclin. So it's either iodine or it cleanses chlorhexidine. It's like water. If there's tear gas, if you're anticipating tear gas, then you probably should, like an eye rinse. And there's protocols for tear gas that I'll get to in a minute that are pretty safe with over-the-counter recommendations. But just the basics, like you would take on a school field trip to Ocean World or something. But what you wear matters. This I didn't really appreciate. So you should have shatter-resistant swim goggles.
Wow.
Or an N95 face mask.
That makes sense.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Good protective shoes. So that's the flip-flop rule.
Yeah.
Okay. Sun-resistant clothing. Okay. Because sun-resistant clothing also resists chemicals like tear gas.
Oh, wow. Okay.
To a certain extent. Remember, tear gas is targeting your respiratory, but it also makes your skin burn. A bandana to cover the nose and mouth.
So is there anything special about sun-resistant clothing, or is that just clothing that covers your skin?
Yeah, it's clothing that covers your skin.
Okay.
A bandana to cover your nose and mouth, so your upper respiratory trees. And they recommend it's either soaked in water, lemon juice, or vinegar to protect against noxious chemicals.
I'm going to have to vote for the lemon juice.
I don't know what the lemon juice or vinegar is. Maybe that's a scent thing.
Yeah. I don't know who'd want to walk around smelling an Easter egg all the time.
Yeah.
But
ER nurses put vapor rub under their nose when they have to deal with patients that don't smell good. So maybe that's kind of that.
Okay.
But I think water is key.
Yeah.
Water is key. So you should have a second set of clothing in a closed plastic bag in case what you're wearing gets contaminated.
Good point.
Yeah. I wouldn't have thought of that. And they encourage hats. I'm not sure why. Maybe if the sun, in LA, the sun's a thing, but
I wonder if that has any, to keep, people from grabbing your hair. I wonder if there's any sort of facial recognition issues with that, if you've got hats on.
I don't think that's the intent. I think this has a health intent, but that might be a secondary icing on the cake. Yeah. So this is where they talked a little bit about tear gas.
Mm-hmm.
So they say avoid the use of oils or lotions because it traps chemicals and prolongs exposure of chemicals on your skin.
Okay.
Now, I wouldn't have guessed that. They say, however, don't use sunscreen. That's that's not good.
Well, but I can see. Okay, so here's a little thing.
Right.
If you've ever had, say, a sandwich, I learned this at Subway. If you have a sandwich and you have jalapenos on that sandwich, and then you also have a bit of olive oil on it, that sandwich is much hotter. And it stays in your mouth longer, hotter.
And then when you rub your eyes with your finger,
that's a rookie mistake right there.
Yeah.
But the oil interacting and then sort of spreading further the capsaicin, that was like, oh, okay, I see how that works, and that's probably the same kind of thing about not having oil that would catch chemicals on your skin.
Probably. They say if he has sprayed with tear gas, you should stay calm and in the moment, which for me would be a little hard to do.
Center yourself in the cloud of tear gas.
But breathe slowly.
Yeah.
Okay, that's going to decrease your exposure. Mm-hmm. And remember that it passes. Mm-hmm. Okay, so don't have a panic moment is what they're saying. Because what do you do if you're panicking? Well, your respirations go up. And
you're going to breathe more in.
Yeah, you're probably gasping too. Mm-hmm. So the total volume of your lungs plus the respiration rate means you're breathing in more.
Okay.
So stay calm, although that I think would be really hard to do.
Just stay calm. Yeah, I know. You're not in a calm sort of situation having calm things happen to you. So that's going to be difficult. But if you are that guru, if you are that enlightened, then
if you have experience with tear gas.
Yeah, maybe that's it, right?
It's the experience. Tear gas target.
Find the boomer that's going, this is nothing.
Yeah. And they encourage people to blow their nose, spit, rinse their mouth with water and spit, cough to get the irritants out of your airways. Mm-hmm. So, and do not.
Right.
This is important. Do not wear contact lenses because then you're going to trap it by your eyes. Mm-hmm. So don't do that. And if you happen to get caught, if you're walking your dog in flip-flops and you happen to have your contacts in, and all of a sudden you're in the middle of this, those contacts are toast. So,
yeah.
So get a new pair. It's super important, although your skin will be burning, not to rub your skin because you're kind of opening little micro abrasions for the chemicals to go deeper.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So you got to keep everything superficial. I wonder if it's itchy or just burny. Probably more burny.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, so don't rub your skin, although I think trying to rub it off or something might be the initial thought.
Is it water soluble?
Yeah, I think it is to a certain extent.
Okay.
It's super important not to rub it into your skin. May consider having a solution. This is a protocol, actually, of half liquid and acid and half water.
Okay.
So if you're a healthcare, if you're like a medical support person, you might have bottles of this. And you need specifically, so liquid and acid, can we use brand names?
Yeah, sure. Like
Okay,
Maalox
so
or
Maalox
something.
or
Okay.
Mylanta.
Right.
And those are the ones that have aluminum hydroxide or magnesium hydroxide.
Uh-huh.
So it's a 50-50 split. And this makes sense to me because this is a partial recipe for what we call in medicine magic mouthwash. So if somebody has a mouth irritant, they can swish this with a couple of other prescription liquids with it and kind of soothe that fire in their mouth.
Wow.
So,
Okay.
but this is something you could get over the counter, and a protocol exists. This is what's super cool about this. We're not reinventing the wheel here. We've been there before.
So what does it do? This is obviously kind of a pH thing then, right?
I think it's more of a like putting a layer of protection down thing.
Okay,
It
so
might be a
something you do.
neutralizing thing, but I don't think that's necessarily pH. So street medics or action medics are volunteers who have some medical training. We've already kind of covered that. And some protest-related training, like passive resistant. And they have been around for a long time. So they kind of started during the 60s with the civil rights movement. And especially with the anti-war protesters and the Black Panthers, which I thought was super cool.
Wow.
Also, the American Indian movement, or AIM, was involved with this. And it's kind of developed into not only a protest thing, but kind of a support team for like festivals and things. So at Reggae on the River, they have a similar group of people, medical people, that are able to do stuff called Jaw Med,
That's
which
great.
is like everybody wants to be, have that on their resume. But they are there to provide medical and wellness care, and they are covered under the Good Samaritan laws because their care is supplied in a voluntary manner.
What are the Good Samaritan laws?
A Good Samaritan,
Like you can't be sued for things you do?
clauses that you can't be sued medically for some medical aid that you give to somebody if you're there voluntarily and they're participating mostly voluntarily. I suppose CPR is different.
Right, yeah.
It's not like you have to sign informed consent to do CPR on somebody. And it is what healthcare providers do when they can't go to the meetings and they can't, they can't really be part of the direct action. And they hold on to it. It's close to their hearts. And I really want to say that Open Door, several people in the Open Door system, the first generation of Open Door providers,
Right.
started as street medics during like the Democratic Convention in, what was that, 68?
The messy one in Chicago?
Yeah, the
in
messy
68,
one.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, there were providers there that were on the street trying to help people, and they were teenagers at the time. So they're called to it, and I think it's kind of a cool thing. There's protocols for it. You can go online. Like besides the antacid protocol, there's other ones that involve prescription meds, but have their downsides. So they want people to stay with what's simple and what's supportive.
Wow.
You have to wear clothing, though, that identifies you as a street medic, which in most cases is just like a white shirt with some red duct tape on it that's in the form of a cross. That's, I think, universally identifiable in most situations.
Wow.
Super cool. But we should remember through this that everyone has the right of freedom of expression and assembly. And I would say peaceful. I would add peaceful onto that. Law enforcement must facilitate and not restrict a peaceful public assembly.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure that's what's happening down in LA.
Yeah. I'm kind of questioning what you're doing here, but go ahead.
Okay. So you have the freedom from excessive use of force, and you have the right to have medical assistance. So, the other people, if we're talking about National Guard, they have medical people inside. They have ambulances.
Uh-huh.
You have a freedom from arbitrary arrest and detention. And you have the right to know why you're being arrested if you're arrested. And the right to prompt access to your family and your lawyer. And then you have the right to complain if your rights are violated. Now, I don't think somebody's going into this action medic thing with the intention of getting arrested. I think they're going into it with the intention of helping.
Maybe not the intention, but there's got to be an expectation to some regard.
Right.
And we talked about, you're going down this list. You have the right to this, to this, to this. This is one of the reasons why these things are going on, is that people don't have these rights.
Exactly. So that's why I'm reminding people that they have these rights.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important that we ask for our rights. If we're swept up in something, they don't get the significance of the big red cross on your chest.
Mm-hmm.
And, they sweep you up in something. Or you don't have your, high energy snack and you get hangry and
Take a swing at somebody, right?
Yeah, but most providers are not, they know how to find their calm place and stay there.
Right.
So, but I think all of us should know that. All of us should remember that. All of us should advocate for that. And you're right, it doesn't happen as much as it should.
No, but we have some very foundational documents that refer to rights like this as being inalienable.
Right.
Meaning that they come simply with the territory of being alive on this planet. And we're, having to go out in the streets and argue about that. It just seems like if you're, it's nice to remember your rights. That's great. But if you've got one side that's playing by those rules with those rights, and another side that's completely disregarding and jackbooting those rights and throwing due process out, I don't know. I mean, this is nice sort of rah stuff. Hooray!
It's spitting in the wind. Yeah, I totally get what you're saying, but I still think you have to know that you have these rights.
Yeah. I mean, that's that, and to me, that seems tantamount to knowing why you're out there to begin with.
Right.
Yeah.
And I suppose that somebody's out there as a street medic, and maybe they could take care of the other side too. It's not like they take sides.
Yeah, I suppose.
Then there's that.
There's that. That's
but this is
really nice there.
Yeah, it's a massive confusion. Your point's well taken. A massive confusion.
God.
It's hard to find your center spot and stay there.
Man, I don't know. I hope this is helpful. I hope we're.
But I remind people that we do have a target of ICE. We have a community in Smith River, a migrante community, who, on the whole, are kind, industrious, intelligent,
hardworking folks.
Yep. And they do not deserve what's going on. We've had drills at Open Door about what we do when ICE shows up. And, I would hope that...
Can you speak to that at all?
Totally can.
What's the protocol at Open Door if ICE shows up?
Well, the protocol is good. It essentially boils down to getting an administration involved as soon as possible.
You sick Hilda on them? Is that what you do? Send Hilda out there to back them down?
Well, Hilda is scary, but there's other people who are scarier, and we're not even allowed to let them in the building.
Yeah.
And they might have feelings about that, but that doesn't change that they're not to come in the building. Open Door, Del Norte Community Health Center is a safe place. And we will take care of our patients, and we're not going to turn them over to ICE.
And that's
Never.
official? That's official Open Door policy?
It's official Open Door. And it was also the same way when I worked for Sutter. And I imagine it's the same way at UHS, but I don't think it's as relevant.
Yeah.
But, the last time we were told we had to turn in patients from the undocumented patients from the ER. There was no doctor had a buy into that.
When was that?
probably about 20 years ago.
Really? Really? Wow. Like under W?
Yep.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
You have to remember that doctors are very independent thinkers, and they're not afraid of stuff very often. And yeah, they're like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that.
Wow. Yeah.
And 100% was blown off.
That's great. Thank you for your service. That's wonderful. That's really cool.
Well, I'm not a physician, but we do what we want to do.
Yeah.
We do what makes sense for our patients.
Yeah, there are bigger things to be concerned about.
That's right.
Yeah. Wow.
So,
Man, all right. Well, thank you for this this guide. For it's we're just getting into the summer, and I don't think this is the last of these sorts of things we're going to see. It feels like just the beginning. And there's a part of me that's like, it's about GD time, but it's like, this is what it took.
right.
And I knew that there would be probably here, certainly in the West and here in California, there would be communities in which I stepped and they would not be welcome.
I'm certain it would happen here.
Yeah, that's wow.
I want to say a quick recognition. There's a physician, emergency room physician, who died recently in the last couple of weeks, Dr. George Eisenhart.
Here, local?
Who was living in Humboldt, but for many years, for decades, ran the ER.
Oh, wow.
Was part of a dedicated team, including Dr. Saunders, Dr. Higgins, Dr. Nicely, Dr. E.B., Dr. Holmes. And they're starting to, as a group cohort, kind of passing. But the most recent one was Dr. Eisenhart, very talented musician, played Dixieland jazz.
Oh, what instrument?
He played the trumpet, I think.
Oh, man.
Might have been the trombone. I bet he played more than one. But these people, although they largely lived out of the area, they were here taking care of us through the Friday night, got money, going to go out and cause trouble. They took care of this community for years, and Dr. Eisenhart was one of the best.
Wow.
So I appreciate my time working with him. He ran the acute care center for years,
Right
quietly, but with amazing medical fortitude.
Well, hats off to Dr. Eisenhart. Yeah. That's wonderful. How old was he?
Oh, I think he's in his 70s, and he kind of, as far as I know, he worked pretty close to the end.
Right,
they're all aging. They're all in their 70s. Some of them are still working in the ER at night.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for that, Lynn. That was a touching sort of thing to end on here. Anything looking forward as far as upcoming health matters?
Yeah, I think Tori Starr, the CEO of Humboldt Open Door Clinic, also including Del Norte Community Health Center, should talk to us. I'm working on that.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Let's get to the top.
That's right.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Lynn. And again, thanks for today's episode. We'll see you next week.
All righty.